Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I'm going to show you my Christmas book haul. So I was very fortunate this year for Christmas to have received a lot of amazing books, and I also got some Waterstones gift cards, so I ended up buying some stuff for myself as well. Big shout out to Scottish Fiance, by the way, who basically raided my Amazon wishlist, and that's where a lot of these came from. I thought that first I would show you the books that I actually received as presents, and then some more books that I ended up getting for myself via gift cards. So let's get started, because there are a fair few here. The very first thing to show you is the Song of the Lioness Quartet by Tamora Pierce. I have talked at length about how much I love Tempest and Slaughter. I believe it was on my best books of 2018 list. It's been a while since I've actually watched that video, but I can link it below just in case it is. But I love Tamora Pierce, and I can go on rambles about Tamora Pierce for ages and ages. I love her. She's amazing. She was a huge part of my childhood, and like, these were the books that I read sort of pre-Harry Potter and sort of waiting for the new Harry Potter books to come out, and like, I love these so much. Can you tell I'm excited? Oh my god. So these are 4 books in this quartet, the first being Alana, the first adventure, the second, I believe, being In the Hands of the Goddess. I believe these are the 2 that I remember reading the most. I've read all of these, I'm pretty sure, at some point, but I think I've reread these 2 the most. The third is The Woman Who Rides Like a Man, and the very last one is The Lioness Rampant. These books are about a girl in a fantasy world who decides that she wants to become a knight. She does not want to be a lady, so she disguises herself as a boy, and she basically goes to school to learn how to be a knight. She creates these amazing friendships, she overcomes adversity, and it's amazing, and she's amazing, and like, I love Tamora Pierce so much. The next book that I got for Christmas I'm also super excited about. I couldn't quite justify getting this one for myself because I've already read this book and I already own a copy of this book, but when I saw the special edition was coming out, I couldn't resist. This is the Six of Crows Collector's Edition by Leigh Bardugo. Six of Crows is a favorite on BookTube and in kind of like the internet bookish communities because it's an amazing book that I love so much, and I was thrilled when I saw this lovely edition coming out. So it is hardcover and it has sprayed edges. It's got a map of the world on the end papers, and it has, at the very end, hold on one moment please, we've got character art for our characters as well. Let's find Nina because she's the best. So it's just a really cool edition of this book. I absolutely adore this book. This is one of the best finds that I had for BookTube. I had never heard of this before, and I am so glad that I ended up reading it last year. It was one of my favorite books of the year. So if you don't know, Six of Crows follows a sort of ragtag gang of thieves who have to commit the impossible heist. They have to break into a prison and get a prisoner out, and no one has ever broken into this prison. No one has ever broken out of this prison before. And the characters in this book are amazing. As I said, Nina's my favorite character. She's just like encapsulates everything that I love in fantasy heroines. It's just like, if you haven't read this yet and you like fantasy and you like heist novels, it's just like so good. Next is a book about lady pirates, and I'm really excited to read this. This is one that I just couldn't really find in bookstores in the UK, so I would have had to order it online. It went on my wish list. Thank you, Scottish Fiance. This is Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. This book is all about lady pirates. It's about a crew of lady pirates and their badass leader named Caledonia, I believe, and this just looks like so much fun. I haven't really heard anything about this, but I think it was one of the books that came in one of the subscription boxes that I don't subscribe to, maybe Owl Crate recently. So I saw a lot of people getting this book and being really excited about it, but I haven't really heard much about it, so I'm very much looking forward to reading this in the new year. Next is a book that I have heard so much about. I've heard really great things about, and I'm very excited to read. This is Furyborn by Claire Legrand. So I read Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand earlier this year, and I really loved the writing style. I really loved the characters. I like that book so much. And while that may be horror as opposed to high fantasy, I just know that this is going to be a really intricate and incredibly well-written book, and I'm so looking forward to it. I don't know much about this one, but I do know that it takes place place over 2 different timelines, 2 different women separated by hundreds of years, and their timelines are going to somehow sort of come together and their fates are intertwined. It sounds really cool. It's got one of my favorite covers of the year. It's got deckled edges, which I love. I know a lot of people don't like this, but I love this. And it's just a beautiful book. I've been wanting this for so long, and I'm so happy that I finally have my hands on a copy. Next book that I have here is Grimm Ladies, and this is by Megan Shepherd. This is another one that I've been hearing a lot about. I think it's a fairly new release, so I haven't heard anything about what people really think of the book, but I've been seeing this everywhere, and I was really wanting to read it. This book follows a girl named Anouk, and she has been enchanted from a human into a kind of beast-like creature, kind of a goblin-like creature, and she serves a kind of cruel mistress named Mata Vitora, and one day her mistress is found murdered. So she is pursued through our like modern Paris, and she has to find out who the real killer is. This sounds really cool. It sounds weird as hell, and I think that this might be one that I really enjoy. The last book that I received as a gift is one that I have been so looking forward to, and I actually did not realize is the sequel or like a companion novel to one of my favorite books of all time. This is The Labyrinth of Spirits, and this is by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I absolutely love Shadow of the Wind, not to be confused with Name of the Wind. It's one of my favorite books ever, and I think I read it in high school, so it's been a really long time. It's one of the very few books that I would consider rereading. I never reread books ever, and all I knew is that this is going to be somehow tied into that world, and I was like, yes, 100% sold. So I love that world so much. I'm probably going to dive into this blind. I'm not going to go ahead and read the plot summary, but this is going to be amazing. I just know it's going to be amazing. And it's also massive, which is super exciting. I love long books. It looks like it's just over 800 pages long. This is gonna be awesome. I'm super excited to read this. Next up, I'm gonna rattle through some books that I bought with gift cards. So I'm not gonna go into these too in depth, but I wanted to talk about them all here so I don't have to talk about them in my December book haul. So this very first book is one that I'm very excited to read. I've never read anything by this author before, despite owning an entire trilogy by her, but I saw this, I got really excited. This is How Long Till Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin. So she's amazing. If you don't know who she is, she wrote a trilogy called the Broken Earth trilogy, which is the one that I have sitting on my shelf. It's the one that I talked about in my series I Want to Start in 2019 video, if you'd like to check that out. But she made history winning the Hugo 3 consecutive years for that trilogy, and she's an amazing, sort of very vocal author about sort of fantasy and diversity in fantasy, and this is a collection of short stories. I've heard great things about this book, and I'm super excited to read it. The next book that I have here is one that I bought in order to encourage myself to finish off a series that I talked about in my book series I Want to Finish in 2019 video. This is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. So the Farseer trilogy is a trilogy that I really want to finish. I talk about how heartbreaking it is in that video, which I'll link below, but this is the first book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, which comes after that one. So I really desperately want to read this, but I need to finish the Farseer trilogy first. I'm working on it. Next up, I have a book that I'm very excited to read because it is grimdark by a female author. This is Court of Broken Knives by Anna Smith Spark. This is another one of those books that my friend Bethan has been talking about a lot, and I really want to read. It sounds very cool. I know the second book has just come out, I believe in 2018, and it's going to wrap up next year, so now is the time to get started on this. This is another one that I'm probably just going to dive into blind, because I know I'm gonna read it, I know I'm gonna like it, so I might as well just surprise myself. The next book that I have is one that I'm very happy I found in hardcover because I'm in love with this hardcover edition. This is The Wicked Comet, and this is by Laura Carlin. This, I believe, is a Victorian detective story with a lady detective who is also a lesbian. That's really all I needed to know about this one. This sounds awesome. The next book that I picked up is one that is much loved here on BookTube, and sometimes I feel like one of the few people who hasn't read it. This is Nevermore by Jessica Towson. So I've heard people say that this is sort of the closest inheritor to Harry Potter that a lot of people have read that still manages to maintain its own identity. It's not like a Harry Potter clone. It has that kind of feeling of childhood wonder that Harry Potter really captures for a lot of people, so this sounds like it's gonna be really great. So this is about a girl named Morrigan Crow, and she is cursed. She's going to die on her 11th birthday. However, when midnight strikes on her 11th birthday, she is swept up into this magical city. This sounds great. This sounds really wonderful. Wondersmith, which is the second book in the series, just came out in hardcover, so it's time for me to catch up. Next up, I have Red Country by Joe Abercrombie. He's one of my favorite authors. I dedicated myself to finishing the First Law standalone books in 2019, and this is the only one that I didn't own, so this was an obvious choice. I don't know much about this one. Joe Abercrombie's one of those authors. I'm just gonna read whatever the hell he writes. I would like to get caught up on all the First Law books because his next First Law trilogy comes out in September of next year. I still have to read The Heroes, Red Country, and then a collection of short stories. I'm very excited for this. This is Scottish Fiancé's favorite book by Joe Abercrombie, and I know that it is kind of a Western feeling fantasy. The next book that I have is one that I've heard a lot about from authors, actually, and I really haven't seen any bloggers reading this, any booktube people reading this. This is Torn by Rowena Miller. So this sounds really, really interesting. This is a book about a dressmaker and charm caster named Sophie, and she has lifted her family out of poverty because she's so incredibly talented as a dressmaker, and she sort of discreetly embroiders spells into the work that she does. However, in this particular world, revolution is brewing, and her brother rises to prominence as one of these revolutionaries, and she's torn between family and her future. This sounds awesome. This sounds really, really great. I was so happy to see a copy of it on the shelf at Waterstones, and I snatched it up right away. The next book that I have is Snakewood by Adrian Selby. So I've heard a little bit about his most recent book, which I believe is called The Winter Road, possibly. I can link it down below if you'd like to check it out. But this sounded really, really interesting to me, and I don't think the two books are connected, but I really wanted to read his debut novel first. This book is basically about mercenaries who are sort of past their glory days, which reminds me a little bit of Kings of the Wild. However, unlike Kings of the Wild, which is full of fun and ridiculousness, these mercenaries are being killed off one by one, and their leader is in hiding. This sounds really, really cool. It sounds really intriguing. It's one of those books that just doesn't have a lot on the back jacket, so I'm very, very, very interested in this. It sounds like it is exactly my cup of tea. The last book that I have to show you is one that I know literally nothing about, and I'm going to keep that way until I actually read it. But it caught my eye not just because of its incredible cover, but also the fact that it is translated fantasy, which I feel like you don't see very often. This is Vitanostra, and this is by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko. This is one, again, I don't know much about. It sounds like a combination of science fiction and fantasy. It sounds like it's got lots of adventure in it, and it's got that kind of school narrative that I love so much. So that is my Christmas book haul. I was very, very fortunate this year, and I am so happy with all of these books. They're all going to be amazing, and I cannot wait to read them all. In the comments below, let me know what you received for Christmas this year, if you got any books, or if you've read any of these books, or if they're on your TBR. I would love to hear from you. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.